The outrage that is the Graham James story. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. There are few people that would disagree with using terms like monster to describe Graham James. So the question is, why is this man out on parole before his sentence for sexual abuse of young boys is even up? This coming as he even told the parole board he is still attracted to young boys. He's just going to promise not to act on it this time. The story of Graham James is one of the best known, unfortunately, perhaps infamous is the better word, one of the most infamous cases of sexual abuse in Canadian history. This is a man who was a heralded hockey coach, a man who, while he was coaching the Swift Current Broncos of the Western Hockey League, was named the top man in hockey in all of the world. This is a man who was looked up to by the communities that he worked in, the families that entrusted their boys to his care to guide them towards NHL careers, and it turns out he was abusing them over and over again throughout that time period. He was convicted in the 1990s, sentenced to 3.5 years in jail for his abuse of former NHL star Sheldon Kennedy. But then, a few years ago, Theo Fleury and Todd Holt came forward with their stories of abuse. There have been others that have come forward, and James was sentenced to prison again. In May 2012, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. That was bumped up to 5, and yet he's out. He's out on parole, even as he admits that he's still attracted to young boys. Theo Fleury's reaction was to say via statement that Canada is a Disneyland for pedophiles, and it's hard to disagree with that statement. We're not taking it seriously enough. Sheldon Kennedy is taking a different viewpoint. He says he hopes that James doesn't reoffend, but isn't convinced his old coach has it in him to change. Kennedy is pointing to the harm that is done to victims in calling for society to realize how serious these crimes are. He doesn't think we do. He shared with the world via Twitter some of the stats that his Sheldon Kennedy's Child Advocacy Center has been putting out in trying to get changes made, and they will leave you slack-jawed. You just won't believe them. Take a look at this infograph. 1 in 3 Canadians is likely to suffer some kind of abuse as a child. Victims of abuse are 4 times more likely to report suicidal thoughts. They're 30% less likely to graduate from high school, 26 times more likely to experience homelessness in the future, and 72% of people in detox programs have histories of child abuse. 21% of young girls experience some form of abuse, sexual or physical, 31% of boys. These are staggering statistics, and perhaps signs that we do need to take this more seriously when it comes to not only our sentencing, but how victims are supported. Sheldon Kennedy says that it costs about $21.5 billion a year in all its forms to deal with victim services. This is a major cost to our society. It's a major cost in terms of lives as well, though. Lives damaged, never recovered. Sheldon Kennedy and Theo Fleury are doing the hard work and trying to help others, but not everyone is so brave or so lucky. And it's for them that we should be speaking up and denouncing events like Graham James. Here's the sad part. He's one of the more famous, infamous sex abusers, but he's not the only one out there. And there's many more like him getting day parole and light sentences, but because their victims were not stars, we don't hear about it. It's time for this to change in Canada.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.